Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is part 2 of my top 50 list of my favorite comics of all time. These are the comics that I love the most that weren't on my previous top 50 list, which I will link below, and I will link the previous video, part 1, which is my favorite comics from number 50 to number 41. So those are my first 10 of this list. This is my second list, which is numbers 40 to 31. So these are also really great comics, and they're getting a little bit more special to me, I guess. I hope that you like them, and I will show you the ones that are on this new list. First one on the list is this one. This is kind of a cool comic. When I grew up, my parents would buy me certain comics. They would only buy me like Disney comics or comics which were safe, I guess. They didn't like superheroes. They didn't buy any of those. They would buy like Donald Duck, Uncle Scrooge, all of those kind of comics. So this comic is especially special to me because it is Donald Duck's first appearance. And Donald Duck was one of my favorite characters. Donald Duck and Goofy. Those were my two biggest favorite characters when I was a kid. And this is Donald Duck's first appearance. And it's a really kind of interesting book. I believe it's from 1933. And it's actually in sort of a leather. It's like a leather-bound book. And it's really interesting. And part of the reason why it survives so well, I mean, as a comic, is the fact that it is in this leather boundness. You know, it's a leather book, and it's kind of cool for that reason. It's a very large book, as you can see, and it's just a cool book to have. Actually, I was watching somebody else's YouTube channel, and they had it in the background. And then I later picked it up at auction. So I was like, because once I heard about it, I was like, I got to get that because it was so cool. So, you know, it's a very special book to me. And this is number 40 on my list of my favorite comics. So next one is an interesting one for me. I'm a big fan of Felix the Cat. And this is Felix the Cat's first comic with his title in the title. And the previous Felix the Cat stories that were in comics were ones that were just reprints from like the serials that they did from like, you know, like newspapers and stuff like that. So this is his first comic. But it's also an interesting one because it's a controversial comic. And so it's kind of one of those things I love controversial comics. I like anything that's a little bit risque, a little bit funny, a little bit insensitive sometimes maybe. Because maybe because our world has become way too sensitive, I kind of like things that are a little bit politically incorrect. And this is one of those comics that's like that. It's got the typical African with the bone in the hair and the grass skirt, and it's just kind of goofy. And you know, it's probably racially insensitive, but that's what makes it kind of charming in a way. that's what makes it kind of funny. And I just think it's really interesting that such a politically incorrect comic was Felix the Cat's first comic series from his, you know, where he was in the title. And this is 4-color 119 if you're looking for this comic. And it's a pretty rare comic, but not that expensive. You can probably pick it up for about $100, considering it's from 1940s. It's, you know, I think it's 47 or 48, something like that. It's a pretty early comic. So yeah, it's a personal favorite of mine. It's number 39 on my list. So that was my story. This is another one, as again, I love these kind of, you know, kind of interesting comics. And this one is interesting, especially interesting. So they're going to come out with a SheHulk, a Disney series. And those people that don't know She-Hulk, they won't really get, probably, I'm not sure how they were going to make this series. If they make it the way it was originally written, it would be very different than what probably Disney would probably want to put out. She-Hulk was kind of like one of these sexy characters. You know, it's kind of weird that she was considered kind of a sexy character, but she was kind of doing stuff that Deadpool would do as well. She was always breaking the fourth wall. And this was kind of making fun of her sexiness and that breaking of the fourth wall, where she's basically like, you know, being told to skip rope in the comic so that she can be kind of like, you know, bouncy boobs and like kind of sexy, and she's like given like no clothes to wear. So it's kind of like one of those sexy innuendo comics covers as well. And I just think it's really funny, and it's quite brilliant. Obviously she doesn't get naked in the comic, but it's just one of those ones where it's very suggestive, it's kind of interesting, and it's actually one of my favorite comic covers. It's just such a great cover. So it's just a really funny comic. I just really love it. I think it's awesome. So this is Sensational She-Hulk number 40. So this is the second series for She-Hulk. So yeah, so really great comic. Next on my list is Invincible number 1. If you're watching the Amazon Prime show, it's an excellent show, excellent series. And this is Invincible's first full appearance. He actually appeared in Savage Dragon earlier, but this is his first full appearance, and it's just a really great comic to have. And this is the first print, obviously, and it's in high grade. And since I bought this like over a year ago. The reason I bought this was actually Comic Tom 101. He always had this comic in his background, and I was like, what is Invincible? I was always curious about it. So I read up on the story, and I thought, wow, this is a really great story. And then I heard that they were going to release, they were working on making a TV series. So I thought, oh, I better pick it up before it becomes too expensive. And I picked it up for like a couple $100 at the time. Now it's like a $1,000 book. It's crazy how much this has gone up. But I just picked it up because of the story. And that's actually something that makes this book extra special, that I picked it up for the story. Not because I thought, oh, it's a great spec. It's not like anything like that. I thought it was a great story. And whenever you pick up a book where it's based on the story, you know that it's something truly special, because it's something that's really great. So this one is that kind of story for me. So I really love Invincible, and I think it's a really great series. I'm actually I'm hoping to win a bunch of bids where I'm bidding on the other, I'm trying to get 1 through 10 of Invincible. I'm hoping to win those bids. I will find out later tonight. So yeah, this is Invincible number 1. Really great comic. Recommended highly. Next on my list is Captain Marvel Adventures number 48. And if you watch some of my earlier videos, I talk about this one specifically. Now there's other Captain Marvel books, and I brought some of them to show, that I also kind of wanted to pull onto this list that weren't on my previous list. And I thought, but the reason this is on my list is it's kind of a cool comic. Again, I love comics that have that history behind them, where they either a controversy or something that's kind of major historical association with them. And this is one of those comics that has that. It was the last appearance of Steamboat. Okay, and Steamboat was a character. He was a black character in the comic. He was actually, in some ways, a heroic character, sort of an unsung hero of the Marvel comics. He tried to save people's lives, and he helped Captain Marvel all the time, and he was just a great character. And people thought the way that he was drawn was insensitive, and so he got canceled. He was like a victim of cancel culture from the 40s. So this was his last appearance from 1945. So that shows you how old cancel culture is. And this was just a really great comic. It was just, the story's good. It's actually kind of a very evolved story, and it's a really great comic. It's a real shame that he got canceled. Actually, this one is not as great as his original first appearance, but he's barely appears in this. He's on one page basically, but it's his arc is really great. I really like Steamboat as a character. It's a shame that they canceled him. So yeah, just a really great comic. Steamboat's last appearance, I should say. Now, you can't have on the list his last appearance without having his first appearance. So the next one on my list is his first appearance. This is America's Greatest Comics #2, and this is a Steamboat's first appearance. So I kind of go through this in a previous video. You should check that video out. I might link it in the description. And it's just it's a great story. It really showcases Steamboat as a character. It gives his origin and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, if you notice, the price of this comic is 15 cents. Now, typically at that time, comics were 10 cents. So a 15-cent comic was an expensive comic. So this was a big comic. You can actually see how thick it is. I'm not sure if you can see that on the screen, but it's a very thick comic filled with lots of stories in it. It featured like Spy Smasher and Bullet Man and Minute Man and Mr. Scarlet, and they all had their stories in this book. So this was sort of like almost like an anthology. It was like just a really big comic with lots of great stories in it. And this just happens to be Steamboat's first appearance. So kind of cool. And, you know, it should be on my list for that reason. So, next on my list is Goon #1. Now, if you're not familiar with Goon, he's kind of an indie character. He's from Image, though. I think they made an Image series, but he's originally from Avatar Press, and this is issue #1, his first full appearance, and it's just a really great series. Like there's the way that they do it is they always have it in arcs where like they'll do like a few comics. Like I think there was like 40 some odd for one of them, and then there's like mini series that they do, and they're always talking about making a movie about Goon. The artist and creator behind Goon, Eric Powell, he did a Kickstarter campaign to get this character like an animated series, and it did very well. So hopefully it's in the works. Hopefully they're going to make this a reality where it's a comic series, a cartoon series. But it's a really brilliant story. It kind of reminds me of sort of a modern take of Will Eisner and Spirit and that kind of thing, where it's got a lot of that kind of humor and charm to it, and it's just really, really well written. Actually, the writer, Eric Powell, he received the Will Eisner Award for his writing of this comic. It's just that well written. It's just a really good series. Definitely recommend you check it out. It's a modern comic. It's very pricey right now because it is kind of a hot comic. Again, this was another one I have to thank Comic Tom for, spiking my interest, because he always had it in his background again. And I always think if somebody, whenever they do those hot lists, they always say, oh, you got to buy this comic. And they never personally have that comic. Generally, they don't really have any interest in the comic. But the ones that are in the background, the ones that they have in their own personal collections, those are the ones that I know that they cherish. And there's usually a reason for why they cherish them. They're either great stories or great art. And, that's what actually gets my interest. I'm always curious what other people really, truly love and collect, because I might have the same kind of interests as them. So I thought, hey, I'll have to check Goon out. I started reading all the comics, and then I knew I had to get the series. So now I own the whole collection of Goon. I have everything that is associated with Goon. So, and this is his first full appearance. I actually have his earlier appearances that appeared in Dreamwalker, which is another book. So this is Goon. Next on my list is, you'll notice that my collection is very all over the place. I collect what I love. I have a very broad taste of things that I like in terms of comics. And one of the things that I really like, and this was actually a very special comic to me for multiple reasons, was Black Panther. When I was a kid, I remember Black Panther. I thought Black Panther was the coolest thing. I thought, there's actually a cartoon where he takes out the Avengers. He beats all of the Avengers. And I just thought he was the greatest character. And then the fact that he came from Wakanda, which was this, highly advanced society, I thought that was just so cool. And, so I really liked Black Panther. So before I actually started getting back into comics, which is only the last couple of years, I'd buy occasional comics here and there. I'd buy maybe one or two comics a month, nothing major, not now, I buy hundreds of comics every month nowadays. But back then I'd only buy a few comics. And this was the first comic that I bought, which was slabbed. I wasn't used to the concept of slabbed comics. This is going back a few years now. I bought this, when I paid for it, it was $50. It's a long time ago. It's a much hotter comic now. But I bought it because I love the character, and it wasn't about the movie that came out about him. It wasn't anything like that. I actually liked the character before all that. And I picked it up, and it was my first slab. It was such a cool concept to me. Wow. I like the idea that it's slabbed because then I can display it. I could, look at that comic and say, wow, that's really cool. And I could really enjoy it. So I love the idea of slabbed comics. And part of the reason why I have so many slabs is I really love that ability to have something where I don't have to worry about it getting damaged. I know that it's, well protected. And I always make sure that I actually make sure that the lights in my room don't damage the comics. That, even though I have lights on, they're LED lights so that they actually protect against damage from the light. And the comic room, the way it's designed, is actually hidden from the sunlight. So this room doesn't get any sunlight. It only gets the lights from the ceiling. So with all that in mind, I love the idea of being able to display my comics and cherish them. So often we just put them in the long boxes and then we never see them again. And it's so sad. I just want to be able to see them all the time. And I just love coming into my comic room and looking around and seeing all those cool comics. And, that this is one of those ones that I'd love to just check out every so often. It's just such a great cover because it's he's jumping down, he's about to fight with the whole Fantastic Four, and this is his first appearance, Black Panther's first appearance in Fantastic Four number 52. So that's why I love this comic so much. Next on my list is Detective Comics 359, and this is the first appearance of Batgirl. Now, when I was a kid, and I'm not old enough to remember, to be alive when the Batman series, the 60s series came out. That was before my time. But they would play reruns of it every weekend. There was actually a TV show in Canada that we had where at the end of the TV show, they would play one of the episodes of Batman. Okay. And the character that kind of always I liked a lot, there was two characters I really liked. I liked Catwoman, and I really liked Batwoman. So I thought they were sexy. I thought they were cool. I just, liked them as characters. And, when I started to get into comics again, I really knew that this is one of those comics that I really wanted to have, which is her first appearance. So Batwoman's first appearance, and or Batgirl, I should say. Batgirl's first appearance. I actually have Batwoman's first appearance too, but this is Batgirl's first appearance. Barbara Gordon, and it's interesting to have so this is more like what she looked like in the TV series. There's actually an earlier Batgirl, which I also have, where she's blonde and she looks very different style costume. Like she has like a skirt and stuff. It's very different style. But this was more what she looked like in the Batman series. So I kind of like this one better for that reason. And I always love it when the character's first appearance is done in this style, where it's like presenting, Batgirl, the new Batgirl. It's just like, it's, she's on the cover. There's no question. This is her first appearance. This is like, she's going to make her debut. I just love it when they do that. I think it's really great. There's no ambiguity. I can't even say that word. I'm just too excited about the comic. It's not like Hulk 180 versus 181 kind of situation where you don't know which is the first appearance, and one is a cover, one is not a cover, and all that kind of stuff. I always like it when it's all in one. This is like that kind of situation where it's her first appearance. That she's on the cover. She's making that intro. It's just a really great cover. You got Batman and Robin swinging into the to action. They're all look like they're going into action. It's just a really great cover, and it's a nice Silver Age comic. It's one of the few Silver Age first appearances, actually. So it's a really great comic. Okay, with that being said, I mentioned her, and this is the other one. So this is number 31 on my list, and this is Catwoman's first Silver Age appearance. Now, I love this comic. I used to always display it on my wall in my office because I just really like looking at it. I like the whole cat fight thing going on. I like the fact that they turned Superman into a cat. I think that's really cool. And there's like a whole story going on the cover. And I think whenever they can do that with a comic where they tell the whole story on the cover, like a kind of like a whole story on the cover, it really gives you a sense, I gotta find out more details. I want to read that story. And this is kind of one of those ones. So this is Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane, number 70. Other thing that I like about this, I actually have another copy of it, but it's like maybe a 3, and it's kind of, a little bit beaten up looking. This one is just a nice high grade. I got it at a good price, and it's a really nice comic. It's just, it shows really well. It's, I wish I could have gotten Catwoman's first appearance, but if Catwoman's first appearance is actually in Batman number 1, where she, as Selina Kyle, she appears. And then later in Batman number 3 is when she's actually appears in costume. So those both books are both very, very expensive. A little bit out of my price range at the moment. I'm going to try to get them later, maybe. But this is the next best thing to get her first Silver Age appearance. And it's not only a Silver Age appearance, but it's a Silver Age cover appearance, which is always nice. I always like seeing that character on the cover. So that's why this is number 31 on my list of my favorite comics. Now, just before I let you go, I kind of wanted to show you some more that could have been maybe honorable mentions. I showed a bunch. I showed my choice for Captain Marvel that was on this list, but I wanted to show you some honorable mentions that I really should have had on this list and that I kind of feel bad that I didn't. This is Captain Marvel number 150. Now, this is really rare, just so you know. It's a rare issue. It's the wedding issue where, you get Captain Marvel marrying his girl. And it's a 5.0. It's a reasonable grade. And it's just a really great comic because it's the last of the series. This is, after this comic came out, you don't see Captain Marvel for almost 20 years. It wasn't until the 70s that he came back. So this was kind of like the farewell comic, and it's just a really iconic Captain Marvel comic. So Captain Marvel Adventures number 150, really great one. And another one that I should really have on the list, but it didn't make the list, was Captain Marvel 22. This is the first kind of appearance of Mr. Mind. You only hear his voice, and it's actually a very cool first appearance. I've read this comic. It's a great comic. It's basically he's announcing to the world, like kind of on a radio broadcast kind of thing, that he is assembling a team of evil people to go up against Captain Marvel. And it's just kind of cool. And it sets up a whole series that they do where Mr. Mind is sort of this background character. You don't know what he looks like. You don't know who he is. And that's what makes it a very cool first appearance, because it's just his voice. And it's just so sinister. It's just so cool. It's just a really cool comic. And this is his first appearance. Captain Marvel Adventures number 22. Very cool comic. I actually have his first appearance where he actually reveals himself, and you just see that he's this little caterpillar or worm-like creature. I never know if he's a caterpillar or a worm. You can tell me in the comments below, but I have his first full appearance. And actually that's on my top 50 list. So I definitely recommend you check that video out as well. And then I have this one. One more. This is a Wiz Comics, but it's Captain Marvel related, and it should have been on the list maybe because I really love this cover. This is Wiz Comics number 71, and I just love these magic covers. I don't know. I just love magic covers. Maybe I should show it a bit better. Take it out of the bag so you can see it a bit better. It's just a really great cover. I don't know. I probably overpaid when I bought it. I think I paid like $100 or $200 for this, something like that. I think it was about, 150 maybe. And it's from 1946. It's just a really great cover, nice high grade, and just shows really well. Just a really great comic. I really love this comic. I have it on my display because it is a great comic. But it didn't make the top 50 list, even though probably it should have. It's just a really great comic. So all of these other ones that I showed, these bonus ones, I feel guilty. I always, I love my comics so much. I feel guilty if they don't make the list. So I had to show them. So with that all being said, that was my numbers 40 to 31 of my top favorite comics. Check out part 3. It's going to get even more exciting, I believe. And thanks for watching. And please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Those really do help the channel. And I really want to get to that 1,000 subs where I'm going to do something majorly special. So check that out when I get to 1,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching. Bye.